We are here in Orgiva on the 21st of October in the house of Hubert and Sophie von Bissing. Hubert, who is here, is one of the pioneers of SUBUD and has had his own way to come and to understand a number of things, and I would like him to relate to us how he came to know about SUBUD and the Latyan.
I first heard of SUBUD when I was in Cyprus in 1956, and my wife and I heard of someone called Hussein Rofe, who was in Cyprus, who'd come from Indonesia. And we met Hussein and started a number of conversations with him. And then he was going to England, and we also. And so we invited him down to a house that we had been lent in the country to hear about SUBUD. And these conversations went on deep into the night. He came down several weekends, and then finally I came to the point of wanting to start in SUBUD. Actually, my wife was expecting a child on the 25th of August, and this was just before the birth, and we had expectation that there might be difficulties, so I felt I would wait to start in SUBUD until after. I regret that now, of course, but I didn't know what was going to happen, what state I might be in, and so I said, all right, we'll wait until after. And it was a difficult birth, and the child nearly died, my wife also, and a fortnight after that, when she'd come back to the house, I asked Hussein to come down and open me in SUBUD.
What year was that?
That was 1956, on September the 8th. That's my birthday.
How extraordinary.
I mean, my birthday in SUBUD.
Yes, of course. You mean that is before Bapak came into England?
Oh, yes.
So that was before
Yes.
Bapak had come to Europe?
Yes, indeed. That was September. Bapak came in May 57, so it was some months before. And in fact, we invited him to come after a month or two of experience of the Latihan. After I had first started, I felt the effects of the Latihan so strong, and above all, so confirming of everything that I'd tried to come to before in the work that I'd done, the internal kind of work that I'd done, that I felt that this was something that was of tremendous value, and therefore we must accept what Hussein said, that Bapak, if invited, might come to the West. And so, first of all, in London, I invited two couples down to the house to hear about this and talk with Hussein. This was Aubrey and Tosca Walton, my sister was Tosca Walton, and Reggie and Irina Hall. And they came down and we discussed this. They asked many questions of Hussein, and then in London they asked to be opened too. And I knew we had to leave London in October to go to business that I had in Cyprus, which is another story, and I wanted to make sure that it had been started in London before we left. And we left in October. They then stayed in London, exercising with Hussein, and we went to Cyprus, exercising there. At that time, there was no one to open women. There was no woman in SUBUD. And husbands, on Hussein's recommendation, opened their wives.
This is new. Great.
Emergency measures. And so after about a fortnight, when Hussein felt that the Latihan was very strong in me already, I opened Sophie, and they also opened in London. And I think it was in November or December that I finally wrote from Cyprus to invite Bapak to come. And they had reached the same conclusion in London, and a little while later they invited Bapak too. I have the letter which of my invitation and Bapak's reply.
Wonderful. Do you think we'll be able to see them, and by any chance maybe you can
Yes.
show them? That would be great.
Yes, certainly. I will look for these.
Because it gives the first indication of what really happens to most of us
Yeah.
who are not familiar
Yes.
with this early story. And then, so when did Bapak arrive and what happened at that time? And with you and the feeling of the Latvian then?
Well, Bapak arrived in May. He'd said in his answering letter, which was I think in December, beginning of January, December, he said that he would come, but he thought it wise not to go to Cyprus, which is where we first invited him to, but to go direct to London. And so we made those arrangements, and we decided, of course, to go in time for his arrival. But a whole series of things had changed in my life, simultaneously with my beginning in SUBUD, my first contact with Bapak. That's another story, but very briefly, I was deeply involved in business in Cyprus, where I had a rather large land development project, 220 acres, just by the capital, which I was busy developing. But suddenly, there was terrorism in Cyprus. We went through 3 years of terrorism. And there was what was called at the time the Suez Crisis, in which the British Army had urgent needs in the Middle East. And they requisitioned all my land to put the army on. So business came to a standstill. People who were building houses couldn't continue. And I wondered how we could continue at all with that project. And I tried to get out of it, but it was impossible to sell. So, long story, immediately after being opened and contact with Bapak, somebody rang me up to say, would I join them and in Rome to consider going down to Kenya to do to advise, consult on a very big development in Kenya, of 19,000 acres. And the result of all that, which I won't go into, was that through that contact in Kenya, I went down to Kenya before going to England for Bapak, the contact I made resulted in my sale of the whole of the land, my whole Cyprus project, which gave me total liberty to be at the service of SUBUD and be with Bapak.
Wonderful freedom just arrived.
An extraordinary.
Yes, it seems that when one is linked with Bapak, there is always something mysterious that happens. Have you found that
I certainly have.
often? And then could we go on to your first contact with Bapak, really? Because then...
Yes. I remember it well. Bapak was staying. We were 4 days late in arriving in London because of these other commitments that I mentioned. And we went to the house in Dartmouth Road where Bapak was staying. The Rafe had arranged, and the party was staying there with Rafe. And our first night we went up there to the house and went up to the room and were greeted by Bapak, who was very warm and very wonderful reception. And he said, could Ibu come and we would all meet? And so she was called, and we had almost like a family meeting together. So a few people, and Bapak and Ibu. And Iksan there? I think he was, yes.